I don't remember a time when curling wasn't a part of my life. When I wasn't putting in the sweat and hard work to be the best that I can be. Clocking in the time, the effort to practice day in, day out. Curling is more than just a game. It's a family, a community. And when it's time to play, I know I'll be ready. Hardline, supporting hundreds of our next generation athletes.
A very good morning to you. Welcome back to the Hack2House Alberta Curling Series Major, presented by Curling Stadium Beaumont. My name is Brian Gray, and I'm joined this morning by Rory McCusker, and we are live from Sheet 2 at the Beaumont Curling Club in Alberta. This is a 15-team triple knockout format with a total purse of $18,000 Canadian, and we are in Championship Sunday. Good morning, Rory.
Good morning, Brian. Thanks for joining the effort here, bringing live free curling to all the good people on YouTube. Great time to be alive with all this free curling that we have to watch. As you mentioned, it is Championship Sunday. Wake up early, get that free hotel breakfast in you, pile in the vehicle, and get those sore muscles sliding out for hopefully a 3-game day for each of these teams.
We've all been there, Rory. So this morning is a quarterfinal game between Team Momoha Tabata of Sapporo in Japan and Team Selena Sturmay, Edmonton, Alberta. What is a rematch from yesterday morning's game that we also featured here.
Yeah, this will be the fourth Sturmay game that I've covered. And you know what? Like it's the middle of September, and I don't want to sound too harsh, but it has been a bit of an inconsistent tournament so far. And the only reason I can say that is because I've watched the same team quite a few times in a row. The challenges so far at this event seem to be very grabby rocks. The rocks are super aggressive in their break and curl. Very, you know, we're sick of hearing this word, release sensitive, but it truly has to be said. If you don't have that sort of inside out motion, directing that rock at the broom from the center line out, that rock is going to curl pretty hard on you. So that has been the main challenge, it would seem, so far.
I agree. There's been a lot of curling, a lot of draws over curling in the very last couple of feet, just touching a guard when you thought they were past, and catching the teams out there. So grabby rocks that could be. Whereas on the upweight, we've tended to see more tendency just a little bit on the wide side on some of the games.
Getting more of a classic first end as the teams go into the house and hit each other out. Used to be nearly every curling game would start like this, but more and more, Brian, we've seen center guards go up and teams really go after it in the first end.
Yeah, we are, of course, playing the 5-rock no-tick, and we were discussing this yesterday, actually. Very often you see the first team starting the end, even if they don't necessarily need a center guard, sometimes just playing that just short of the 12-foot guard because they know that the other team are not allowed to touch it for a couple of rocks, and that hasn't happened here, but we have seen that more often than not in some of the games. If you play top 4, of course, your opponent can decide just to remove you and roll to the side. But playing that really close center line guard, touching the center line, of course, it must, then it kind of forces the opponent either to draw around it or to draw away to the side.
You know, I was just discussing this with some friends. I feel like, especially in North American sports like baseball and football, we're living in a time of really liberal and accepting rule changes. Every year, these sports are kind of reviewed. How can we make them faster, more interesting, more fair? And you know, people seem very accepting of rule changes in sport these days. And curling has certainly benefited from this as the game is reviewed, as new trends emerge. You know, World Curling Congresses will review, hey, is this healthy for the fans, the players, the game itself? And I just think it's a great time to be involved in curling, as even though it's an old game, we see some very positive changes and reviews of the sport taking place.
I agree. Old it is, but when that first, I think it was the 3-rock rule came out, I remember there was a lot of discussion and a lot of traditionalists, myself included, I have to be honest, was like, what's going on? What are we doing here? But I think everyone can agree that we want to see rocks in play. That's the number one for our game. And anything that can promote that without going over the top, of course, has to be good for television, has to be good for the sport, and has to be good for the fans.
Outside of rule changes, Brian, it's also been very interesting to watch just trends in the way people play the game. I'm noticing both these Japanese sweepers sweeping with a slider, even the one kind of dragging her slider foot on the back foot. And, you know, I was taught just like as soon as when I was playing university curling, not even 10 years ago, no sweeping with the slider. You know, it's the weight transfer and you have to be on your toes and all this. But we see the trends go up and down, and it's really interesting to watch curling as the players kind of mimic each other and discover their own ways of doing things.
I agree. Up and down is the word. I'm old school. I learned to curl in about 1978, Rory. So we were taught then, of course, just to sweep with the sliding foot. That was part of the technique of sweeping. And of course, since then it has flipped backwards and forwards. Both teams, I think, here sweeping with the Teflon exposed.
I think a big thing was the rise of mixed doubles, where you don't really have the option to put your anti-gripper or your anti-slider or the gripper on your foot. You got to throw that rock, pop up, and start sweeping. So that kind of technique seemed to translate into four-person curling, made it a little more popular to use the slider while you sweep.
Yeah, and some players are playing both of the categories, mixed doubles and team curling. Not so many these days. You kind of see people going for one or other as the level of the mixed doubles especially has gone up in the last couple of years. But no doubt that mixed doubles has certainly promoted to be sweeping without the gripper on. So Selena Sturmay with her last stone in this first end. What is a very simple first end, and just going to pick this yellow out, hang around, and hope maybe for a nose from the Japanese skip. Just manages to hang on, I think. Ooh, spoke too soon.
Tough to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Guess we didn't.
Just gone through.
It's one of the improvements we've made at Curling Stadium here. I've been with Curling Stadium since Oh, geez, it may have even been 2020 when we did our first event in Swift Current. But we've widened the overhead view to show more of the guard zone. A sacrifice of this is that the lens kind of warps a little bit. It's sort of tough to tell if a rock is sticking around in the house anymore.
So there we go. Tabata, Team Tabata from Japan blanking this first end, and we will go into the first end break. 0-0, second end coming up after this.
Handcrafted in Canada, Hardline's ice pad has revolutionized curling for over a decade. Engineered with top-tier precision and durability, it is backed by an unmatched 10-year warranty. Designed for curlers at all levels to sweep effortlessly with maximum efficiency, it is trusted by the world's best curlers, including Olympic and world champions. It is quite simply the best broom in the game. Hardline. Join the revolution.
Don't forget your brooms.
You got it.
Come on. Okay, well, what do you got? You got one, you got two, you got...
Just one little, please.
You make moments like these possible.
Calling all curlers, novice to pro. Asham Curling Supply's patented rotator disc system lets you customize your slider right in the store. Velcro attachments make it easy to find the sliding platform that's right for you. Shop Asham Curling Supplies, 700 McPhillips, online at asham.com.
Rocks, there's actually a couple of biters. Welcome back to the Hack2House Alberta Curling Series Major, presented by Curling Stadium Beaumont. Championship Sunday we are, and we're following this game between Team Tabata of Japan and Team Sturmay of Edmonton. And it's 0-0 after the first end. Team Tabata has the hammer in this second end.
Yes, pay no mind to the slow scoreboard operator. It is the second end. There we go.
You're doing a great job, Rory.
Ah, thank you very much.
As we see lead Paige Papley on the Sturmay team, just being asked to remove this wide yellow rock.
Who I will say has had a very strong tournament. This is the fourth Sturmay game I've covered. And just yesterday, Team Sturmay found themselves down 2 after the sixth end. Or sorry, down 1 without hammer in the sixth end. At a disadvantage, let's say, if my little recap was confusing there. And for 3 ends in a row, including the extra, Paige Papley put her rocks in just perfect positions to create some offense. And as we know, when you're down in a game, you need strong play from your lead to create those situations that are going to get you back in. And that's exactly what Paige Papley did for her team.
She really did. She had so many ends, perfect corner guard, and then came around the back, just one after the other. It was really excellent games from her.
So interesting move here, Brian. We do see, you know, Team Tabata had the option to hit and stick in the wing. They were facing no danger at all, but they have chosen the delayed corner guard strategy.
Yeah, and some teams are very happy if they can blank that first end and then go for their 2 in the second, which is a very nice strategy. You shorten the game, and if you can get a 2 in that second end, then it's a great start to the first 2 ends of the game. So Team Tabata are going to try and bring that corner guard into play almost immediately with a hit and roll behind it. Hit and roll on this red stone in the 4-foot circle. Try and roll to the right as we look on the main graphic.
Yeah, I missed the call, Brian. Is that where Sturmay was trying to put their stone? I would have thought they might have beat Team Tabata to the kind of 12-foot, 8-foot area behind that corner guard.
Yeah, they basically played to the top of the 4-foot circle.
Well, we have seen hit and rolls are fairly difficult to make on this ice, just with the snappy curl. So that, you know, they very well could be saying, hey, if you're gonna make a perfect hit and roll, go ahead. Until then, we'll happily hit you out.
Agree, they're not easy on this ice. The tendency is, well, if you want to make them, if you're serious about making them, you've really to throw a very controlled weight and use the sweepers, which not everyone is just ready to do in the second end. So Team Tabata looking to clean up a little bit here. Option of a hit and a freeze on the red or a double, I'm not quite sure. Looks like a double. Very nicely done.
Yeah, a bit of a mistake grouping stones together like that, Team Sturmay. So that's a big move for the end. A corner guard and a rock in the rings. Full control here to Team Tabata.
So all they can really do now is just make sure that they stay in the rings, maybe even a little bit of a roll away from the corner guard. Try and keep the distance to the corner guard as far as possible. And of course, even if they do that, you might see Team Japan, Team Tabata just go around the corner guard anyway.
Yeah, and in these simpler ends, the little things become big things. Just where your stone is going to lie, how long you can keep the opponent from using their corner guard. Just kind of one half make away from the momentum of the end swinging in the opposite direction. And of course, when you don't have that center guard, there is no kind of life jacket for the team without hammer. Every mistake amplified.
Absolutely, and even that one, I mean, as we can see from the angles there, it's a long way to the corner guard, but she can certainly, because it's so high up, she could certainly hit 2/3 of this if she can and just roll somewhere over to the right-hand side and maybe get the hidden rock with the next one. But this one appears to be a little bit on the wide side. Getting better now. There you
Could
go.
this be it?
Already done in one shot. Look at that. Perfect.
What an incredible roll. About a 6-foot roll. Really well executed.
And as you say, no center guard as a get out. So all they can do here really is chip that yellow and try and roll back to the center line.
Yeah, the good news is that corner guard is quite high, especially with ice that curls this much. So while it was a very good roll, it's not perfect, and I'm not sure there could have even really been a place where you could totally hide that stone. But the difficulty ratchets up here for Team Sturmay without hammer.
So this is Danielle Schmiemann, third player on the Sturmay team, looking to chip the yellow and perhaps roll to the back of the 4-foot. Looks to be pretty nice, needs to curl a little bit, but looking great. Very nicely done.
Yeah, gets the stone, sticks around in the rings. There's really not much other objectives to be had with a shot like that. So both objectives completed. This is curling a lot. first real mistake from Team Tabata in this second end.
This is always a discussion point, isn't it? Without hammer, do you want to go around that corner guard? You could just draw middle of the 8 foot on the open side and keep it a little bit simpler.
That's a good question, but now at skip stones, it's almost like a mini game here. You know there's only 2 responses that Team Tabata would have, and on the contrary, there's only 1 response afterwards that you will have as Team Sturmay. So if you do make a good draw up from the top 12 foot, 8 foot of that corner guard, you do run the risk of Tabata drawing around you and making a real good one.
That's it. The length on your, even though it's an open draw, it kind of needs to be like almost like full 8 foot or 3/4 8 foot. So the come around is almost impossible. The freeze is really tricky. And any other length, especially T-line or worse, and you're just setting up a very simple 2 actually.
Now I know it's only the second end. We wouldn't be in a scenario like this because if Tabata had scored in the first end, Sturmay would have hammer. But let's say it was a different even end, Brian. If you're trailing, do you think that kind of forces your hand and you really have to go for the force and make that decision?
I think if you're trailing, you have to go around the corner guard, yeah. Because if you're trailing, I mean, you don't want to see another blank end. And if you do this in like the 6th end or something when you're trailing, you know that the end's going to be blanked. So you have to go around that corner, I think, Rory.
I agree.
But in the second end at 0-0, I mean, this is not ideal. This is a similar shot that they had about 4 rocks ago when they rolled rather nicely behind the corner guard. So it's a little bit high, but it just shows, you know, it's the second end. Nobody has the perfect draw length yet. So going around that corner guard would be, I would say, unnecessary at this stage.
Team Sturmay agrees. They'll place one in the top 12 and perhaps even getting a little lucky, only half in the rings. So now Team Tabata to remain shot rock, they'll have to get a roll. Chips it, rolls. Will they stick around? And no, the momentum will take them through the rings.
So there we go. We said drawing to the open side, there's always a chance of a blank end, but now you have a real chance to force. I like to overcurl these just maybe a 1/5 of a rock, just show a little bit of the outside edge, especially when the guard's so long. It just means if the other team do try to hit it from the outside in, they have to push it all the way across, basically across the button, all the way out of the 12 foot. Just that little bit harder.
Yeah, that's a good point. You know, in the hack, you definitely want to see more of the inside edge than the outside if you're Team Tabata throwing your blank attempt.
Exactly. So the depth this time doesn't matter too much, but you wouldn't really want to be back 12. Just making the blank that a little bit easier. But the most important thing is to be hidden. Looks like she's going to achieve that. Very nicely done.
Another really impressive sweep. Paige Papley getting that broom lengthwise and carving that rock over. Sweep to encourage curl.
And there it is. That's how good it is, Rory. They've decided they can't do anything with that. The camera angle from the far end suggests that you might be able to go on the out turn and just chip the red out of play, but Team Tabata are having nothing to do with that. They're just going to draw for their single. So last stone in the second end. Momoha Tabata with an open draw against 1 red counter for the first points of the game.
I think it's a smart move, Brian. Of course, a blank is slightly more ideal, but you don't want to get caught up in chasing that perfect result. They'll go ahead and make the easier shot. And indeed,
Perfectly played. Yeah. Nice draw to the button. Always nice to have a free draw to the button. And Team Tabata picks up 1 point in the second end. Third end coming up in just a moment.
Imagine being able to stream every curling game from every sheet from any event, be it your Wednesday league game, Bonspiel, or corporate event. Curling Stadium offers an all-inclusive streaming solution featuring high-quality cameras, ease of use, great reliability, and minimal installation. Offering your sponsors customizable ad space on your streamed curling games and being able to sell video packages to your corporate events for increased revenue. With Curling Stadium, you can stream to any device, be it your mobile phone, tablet, or computer. Push the feed to your desired platform, be it Facebook, YouTube, or any other social media. Curling Stadium is simply the way forward. Where it's commonplace in other sports to televise every game, we want to do the same. Curling is a global sport, and it's time it gets the coverage it needs. Make your curling club the next Curling Stadium.
Welcome back to the Hack2House Alberta Curling Series Major, presented by Curling Stadium Beaumont. Team Tabata picked up 1 in the second end, so they are now leading 1 point to 0. Team Sturmay with the hammer in the third. As we see Paige Papley with her first stone of this third end.
another really nice looking rock from Paige. A little light, I suppose, but the line is right on, and that's kind of sneaky good, I would say. Was a single point in the second end. Just getting my scoreboard back up and running here. The way we're able to make these broadcasts free for everyone and keep our costs at a way that we can continue to stream every game from every sheet from all these stadiums. We're using a lot of kind of newer technology. You know, not a lot of name brand stuff. So sometimes things go wrong, and we really appreciate our audience understanding that and knowing that we are doing our best and trying to get everything accurate and working.
Who doesn't like free curling on the internet? That's really a gift.
So a little different pace to this game, Brian. You and I were talking between ends here. There have been some very, very long games at not just this tournament, but all sorts of early season competitions. And again, that's, I mean, at international competitions, we would see a clock, you know, timers on the teams. But that takes a lot of, you know, volunteers, technology, organization, and then of course there might be some disagreements or some errors, and it's just a lot more to take on, more than most people would think. Because I do check the chat every now and then and see people say, hey, why aren't there clocks on these teams? And it's just a lot of hard work to get organized.
Absolutely agree. It's been a terrific addition to the internationals, the Worlds, Europeans, and the other qualifying events for the Olympics to have what was originally playing time, and then it changed a couple of years back to the thinking time, which of course is even better because it means that the shot type that you're playing doesn't affect how much time you're using. So that was a great improvement. But as you say, for these kind of events, your number of volunteers just goes up exponentially if you start trying to measure the times that teams are taking. So it's kind of in the team's own hands to keep the games going. It's pretty rare that an umpire is going to come out, I think, and ask somebody to speed up. I never really see it these days, but it does mean occasionally some of the ends are just getting that little bit longer.
Yeah, and I've discussed with my kind of curling buddies about why these games have started to take longer. I think there's a couple factors. One of them is that the game is just more complex than it used to be. There is more serious decisions to be made. Lots more rocks in play and angles, and you know, once you get burned once by a bad decision, you're definitely, you know, once burned twice shy. You don't want to make that mistake twice. So it does take some extra time. Another factor I think is that the players are more strategically minded than they used to be. I mean, there was lots of teams before where you had 1.5 strategical minds on the team, let's say.
That's
And
right.
now with players playing kind of up and down in different lineups, new teams forming all the time, a skip all of a sudden is now playing lead on another team. You've got more voices in the room, more people that want to contribute and have their say. So that's another big factor, I think.
Totally agree with you, Rory. I do a bit of coaching, and one of the things we always mention is that everyone should be tuned in a little bit, at least, to what's going on strategically. So if there's any glaring errors or glaring, perhaps tactical errors that somebody perhaps down the rink can maybe once a game say, "Hey guys, have you thought of this?" or "What about that?" And I think that's important in the modern game. As you say, it is getting more complicated. There's more angles. And it's certainly no longer the case at the top level, anyway, where you've got 1.5 curling brains in a team. Interesting end forming here.
Yeah, definitely.
Just a reminder, Team Sturmay has the hammer in this third end.
Oh, and right on time, the scoring app has refreshed itself. We'll get that reflected.
There it is. And as we mentioned, Paige Papley with her second stone, I think it was, just touching the top 12. And now with hammer, all those rocks are very useful if they can just get a way to bring them into play, as it were, into the counting score.
Yeah, we've seen Team Tabata kind of treat those rocks in the top 12 foot almost like center guards. They're drawing around them as if there's some safety back there. I'd be really scared because that's only a 6-foot run back if Team Sturmay decides to use that. So now we have 1-2 rocks at the top of the 12 in very useful positions for Team Sturmay with quite a few rocks to come left in the end. So things are getting a little sticky for Team Tabata, but as long as they can keep making their shots, keep their shooter in a good relevant position, it's going to be a challenge for Team Sturmay to eliminate the yellow stones and bring those 2 red rocks into play.
And this shot right here is vital to the aggressive strategy that they are playing. If they roll out here, red could be lying 3 in no time.
Big sweep to hold this straight. Let's see if it hangs on. And it will.
But Selena immediately identifying this front to back double here would certainly bring those front 2 immediately into play. Scoring positions, possibly.
First stone for Danielle Schmiemann, who I have seen kind of improve throughout the tournament. First few games was struggling keeping her rocks straight, maybe sliding a little wide and kind of coming around the throw, a little outside in motion, which was really punishing her for you know, line. But throughout the tournament has steadily gotten a better sense of the motion of the rocks in the ice.
They certainly struggled yesterday morning when they played Team Tabata. They ended up losing that game. I think it was 9-1, Rory, and really it was Paige who was making everything perfectly, and then it was kind of going downhill after that from most of the ends. They did have some chances, but it was Selena herself who really, unfortunately, just didn't quite bring the level that was required. So it'll be interesting to see if she can tighten up on that this morning, 24 hours later.
And I should mention, of course, this is implied, but I'll say it out loud. We're talking about one of the best teams in the world, certainly one of the best teams in Canada here. So it's the critiques we're giving Team Sturmay. This is only because we recognize them as truly one of the best teams out here, and it's always easy to kind of poke holes in a team that you have seen play nearly perfectly before. So it's one of those things where, if Brad Gushu misses by 2 feet, you go, oh, what's wrong with Gushu today? When in reality, that's a very good result for 99% of the players in the world.
Exactly.
Same with this Tabata team. We are growing accustomed to see not only one or two, but many high-quality teams coming out of Japan, especially on the women's side, growing into a curling superpower, the country of Japan.
And Team Tabata played Fujisawa in the final of the Savo shootout. And I've been watching Team Tabata the whole weekend, and I thought they're getting better and better. But I'll be honest with you, I didn't expect them to push past Fujisawa, but they did. They won that final game, and right now I'm saying they're the team on form. So this end looking very good for Team Sturmay right now. As you mentioned, Rory, perhaps just a little bit aggressive, drawing around those red rocks from Team Tabata, and it's resulted in this second, third, and fourth shot to Team Sturmay, and Team Sturmay have the hammer in this third. And they're going to have to be careful that they don't jam this yellow at the back when they play this shot.
You'd have to get right over those stones to see exactly how they're going to click-clack off each other. I think they're hoping that the motion of the center stone will be interrupted by the red stone beside it, and they're hoping it will go straight backwards. But you're right, it is something to be careful of.
If they do rub the right stone as we look on the overhead, it will be pretty close to the yellow still, I think.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Oh, I heard a blast off in the microphone. I thought that was our player throwing.
Me too.
It's a good advantage when there's only a few teams on the ice. We actually our sort of arena microphone can pick up some good stuff.
There you go. Oh my
Just
goodness.
as you said, Brian. Just as you said.
They've all gone. Look at that. The front one even is just rubbed out of the rings as well. So it's in a splittable position. So Team Tabata need to make sure that they keep hitting and staying here. But if Selena can just remove this yellow and perhaps even go behind that red, set up a 2 that way.
That was one of the oddest triple takeouts I've seen. It just the way that those were lined up, it's just so irregular that you would have a stone like 1 inch behind its partner, yet they both leave the rings like that, even though you only moved it about 1.5 feet, 2 feet.
Right. So Selena with 2 chances to get 2 here. She can either hit and roll behind this red guard as it is now, or she can hope that Team Tabata rolls out on their hit, and then she's going to have a really straightforward split, I would say, for 2. But she's got to hang around herself. Very nicely played.
That's another great sweep from Paige.
And Team Tabata kind of forced into the double here because obviously if they're going to pick that red, they're going to roll out and they'll lose 2 anyway. So job done by Selena with her first for sure.
Yeah, poking out that outside side like we were talking about in the previous end.
So Momoha Tabata with her last stone in this third end, looking pretty much for a nose hit double on these two reds.
I thought she might take it on, kind of cross the face and roll her shooter into the rings, but that might be a little greedy.
And they're on it straight away, so looks like they're over curling. So thanks to a great shot from Selena Sturmay with her first stone in this third end, she has now a bread and butter draw to the 4-foot for 2 points. Selena Sturmay, last stone in the third, open draw for 2. Not touching at all at this stage.
Looks close.
Never in doubt, Rory. Nice draw, 2 points for Team Sturmay, and they go into a 2-point-1 lead after 3 ends. 4th end coming up after this.
I don't remember a time when curling wasn't a part of my life. When I wasn't putting in the sweat and hard work to be the best that I can be. Clocking in the time, the effort to practice day in, day out. Curling is more than just a game. It's a family, a community. And when it's time to play, I know I'll be ready. Hardline, supporting hundreds of our next generation athletes.
Calling all curlers, novice to pro. Ashland Curling Supply's patented rotator disc system lets you customize your slider right in the store. Velcro attachments make it easy to find the sliding platform that's right for you. Shop Ashland Curling Supplies, 700 McPhillips, online at ashland.com.
Welcome back to the Hack2House Alberta Curling Series Major presented by Curling Stadium Beaumont. So a very nice hit and roll with our first stone from Selena Sturmay. Set up a relatively straightforward juice in the third end, and now we're in the 4th end. Tabata from Japan with the hammer, trailing by 2 points to 1.
Oh, Brian, I think this is a good time to shout out our really faithful Japanese audience that we get on the streams. Every time we show a Japanese team, there is a pile of fans here to cheer them on. And if you're watching on YouTube on a laptop or a cell phone, you can go ahead and minimize your screen if it's full screen, and you can scroll down to that little box beneath the screen, and you will see a chat box. I love it when people chime in and let us know where they're watching from, who they're cheering for. Just kind of fun and interactive, and a little tech trick I'll give the folks at home. If you right-click on that chat box, anywhere inside that box, there will be a translate to English option on your computer. If you click that, your browser will automatically translate the comments to English, and you can read what all of our lovely Japanese fans have to say about the game. And I'll spoil it for you. They're incredibly positive and incredibly fun to banter with.
Great to see the Japanese fans on here. They come in their hundreds to watch some of these games. I remember some of the first Worlds we went to, Rory, when Japan was just sort of breaking through, and they had their own media box and their own interview stand, and the coverage that they were getting at these World Championships was just fantastic. And of course, back home, thousands or hundreds of thousands of people tuning in to watch their team.
Yeah, it's undeniable the positive, energetic effect that the Japanese curling sort of and broadcasting industry has had on curling. Yet another sort of clear end with no guards. We joined the end just a little bit late, but we did see that the first Sturmay stone was in the top 4 foot. It's getting to the point, Brian, where you got to think this is a team-specific strategy that Team Sturmay is a tactic that they're employing against the Japanese Tabata team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, somebody certainly wants to keep it fairly simple, and right now Team Sturmay are ahead, so they're pretty happy with the way things are going. Considering yesterday's game especially, I think they'll be really pleased to be one up here. And yet again, we see the late corner guard from Team Tabata, ignoring the red counter at the back of the 12 foot and looking to manufacture their 2 points that way. And once again, just as happened was, I think, in the last end, Selena calling just to the 4 foot, not going anywhere near that corner guard.
Yeah, it was the second end, Brian. It's
yes.
almost a near exact repeat.
Mm-hmm. We do generally coach try not to draw around a corner guard without hammer if at all possible, because it is a little bit dangerous. And this is the alternative to that, is just to draw in the 4 foot circle, well away from the corner guard, and make the other team work for their juice.
Is this perhaps ice for a draw? No, it must be a hit.
I was thinking exactly the same. I think it is a draw.
All right.
And they're real. So this is full aggressive now. 2 red counters, one on near the button, and Team Tabata ignoring everything and going around that corner guard. Great to see them using their corner guard.
Mm-hmm. It's in a better position as than second end as well. A little tighter to the rings.
Mm-hmm.
And it will go deep. Not so deep that it's outcounted by the corner red, so it is second shot and it is buried, but not a perfect depth.
And so it begins. We've just been talking about drawing round the corner guard without last, and Selena now considering a freeze on that back yellow. Other option would be just to rip the guard off. I would suggest the rip is more consistent to the strategy that Selena's been calling.
Mm-hmm. And with a tough double on those reds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is playing with fire a little bit. This is actually what Team Tabata want you to do. They don't want you to try and remove anything. They want you to start playing draws and freezes, because that way it means that yellows are not leaving the rings. And Tabata with hammer, I think, will be quite pleased to see that they're not removing the guard here. But that's just my own opinion.
No, it's sound. It makes sense.
Other option would be to draw around this corner guard, but just be, as we mentioned earlier, maybe full 12 or just touching the start of the 8-foot circle, nice and high. This is looking really nice. For line, anyway. Honestly, I prefer that one.
Very well managed.
Really good.
Getting into the fourth end, traditionally the quickest end, as the ice is fairly perfectly broken in, yet not broken down quite yet. So sometimes ends up being the quickest hog-to-hog times that you'll see.
Guessing that one was somewhere around 14-2, maybe even 14-5 with sweeping.
I have yet to put a clock on any of these. I think now is a good time to start.
So now Team Tabata will be trying to, I think, angle freeze this red so that any pressure on this yellow stone will result in the red being removed from the rings. So this could be a very interesting end coming up now with 9 rocks to play.
I'm unable to put a clock on this stone because my clock on my computer apparently needs an update. Not exactly sure what new clock technology needs to be implemented, but we'll go ahead and say that one was heavy.
Yep. But still hanging around the back there, Rory, and with hammer, you just never know. Don't look like those two yellows would be in a scoring position by the end of this, but one run back on that yellow guard onto red, and suddenly things could change a bit. So I'm interested now what Ash is going to go for the center guard, a little bit more offensive route. Wouldn't necessarily recommend ripping the corner guard off now because you're leaving a red double. So that opportunity is passed, I think. So this is probably a pretty good call, I would say. Nice and close to the top of the 12-foot. So Danielle Schmiemann with her second stone off this fourth end. Looking to be just maybe 2 feet short of the 12-foot circle on the center line, covering that stone in the 4-foot. And that will curl over just nicely at the end. Perfectly played, I would say. Really nice. A little bit shorter, perhaps, than she wanted.
Yeah, a couple of last few trades back and forth have went Sturmay's way, but the opportunity to score multiple points is still there for Team Tabata.
Mm-hmm. But with this call, it looks like they're turning their back on those other yellows. They're just going to basically tap the yellow in the 4 foot, lie 1 point, and try and get their juice that way.
Yeah, just too much work to bring those back into the conversation.
Yep.
Multiple run backs, and just too much has to go right. So I think this is where the scoring is going to happen in the 4 foot. They may as well accept it and take the opportunity while they have it.
I agree. So Miku Nahira, third player on this Japanese team. Looks like she's going to overcurl on this occasion.
Yeah, significantly. Really, really badly overcurl. I almost wonder if that picked or if it was just a poor release.
I have to be honest, I've been watching her for 2 or 3 games, and that's the first time she's been that far off on any shot.
Mm.
She's been really solid.
I think, has she been hitting all game thus far? Just trying to remember.
Yeah, I guess she has.
Yeah.
That could be. I guess the weight requested was maybe back 12 or even a soft hack. And what did she throw? Maybe a little bit short of that. So Selena Sturmay with her first stone in this 4th end. Looking to consolidate a very good position, I would say.
Yeah, really.
Sorry.
No, it's a huge opportunity to turn this into a chance to steal in an even end. And with that overcurl, it appears she's wasted it.
Yeah, that was certainly an opportunity, as you say. Interesting how the last 2 stones have both basically done the same thing. Wondering if there's a little, maybe a flat patch or something there. That's
Yeah.
overcurled by almost 2 feet.
Yeah, for sure. And so this is, I've covered quite a few games on sheet 2 as well. And what we've noticed is going home, the out turn coming across the center line curls super, super hard, but those were 2 interns coming across the center line that have went really hard. So that's a spot in the ice seems unlikely to me, at least in the final part of the path, but maybe earlier on it's changing direction.
Mm-hmm. Just interesting how both the last 2 stones are almost identical in the result. Now we're switching to the outturn. Let's see. Team Tabata might be able to escape this situation.
That's an additional opportunity here is if you can roll behind the corners with the stagger of the guards. I'm not sure you can chase it if you're Team Sturmay.
So Momoha Tabata with her first stone in this 4th, looking to chip the red, possibly hit half and roll over, as you say, Rory, behind these 3 corner guards.
I suppose another option is to stay down the middle. That's just what I would suspect is their plan. It's really got to move. It's the chip, gets a roll. I'm not able to remove that shot stone. It is still red, at least 1, maybe even 2.
That's a little bit of a disaster for her, I would say. Now, Selena with her last stone really has a pressure-free draw to the top of the button, fully hidden behind that center red guard. Can really turn the screws here on the Team Tabata. So a couple of misses creeping in there, Rory.
Yeah, where do you think the perfect spot for this stone might be?
You could actually, because I think the draw on the outturn, so I mean from right to left as we look on the main graphic, I don't know if that's even there. So I think you could even show a quarter on the left side as we look on the main graphic, just sticking out of the forefoot there somewhere.
That's
Maybe
exactly.
full forefoot, I would say, or even if you go to touching the button, you might leave a slightly heavy draw coming through between the two reds. So
Mhm.
I wouldn't want to go to T-line here. I'd like to leave it a little bit high.
I agree with you completely, and I think showing on that left side as we look at it now is definitely the way to go.
Just a slither, show a fifth even.
Hmm.
I think if you hide completely on the center line, there's going to be a heavy draw between the two reds.
Yeah, and you'd think Team Tabata would be looking for some kind of backing or help.
Mm-hmm.
You almost want to make them draw it cold, which they'll come up a touch shy. Would have been really would have been really nice to get shot rock.
I believe red are lying 3 when I look at that, but it's taken the pressure off a little bit because now they can even possibly use this back red. And if they come to the back red, they would be shot, so they could actually just aim to nose the back red, which is I think what they're doing.
So I'll mention again, I mentioned this earlier in the game, the way that our camera lenses are, that the camera's directly above, let's say, the top 12 foot. As the camera, receives the light from the back of the house, it sort of warps the angle a little bit, makes that Yellowstone seem further back than it is.
Mm-hmm.
There's a chance, Brian, that this is a hit for 2.
Really?
Even though
Yeah.
I know we can see just a little bit more white on the outsides of those red stones.
Mm-hmm. I see what you mean.
Let's see how this shakes down. And it did seem like Team Sturmay was quite disappointed that they didn't make the weight.
That would certainly explain it, yeah. Wonder if it's going to be a measure.
Well, it was Team Sturmay that conceded and kicked
It
the rock.
was.
I think we might have a score of 2 here.
I think you're spot on, Rory. It looks like 2 for Team Tabata, so they spring surprisingly into a 3-2 lead after 4 ends, and we'll be back after the 4th end break.
Handcrafted in Canada, Hardlines Ice Pad has revolutionized curling for over a decade. Engineered with top-tier precision and durability, it is backed by an unmatched 10-year warranty. Designed for curlers at all levels to sweep effortlessly with maximum efficiency, it is trusted by the world's best curlers, including Olympic and world champions. It is quite simply the best broom in the game. Hardline, join the revolution.
Yellow shot.
I don't remember a time when curling wasn't a part of my life. When I wasn't putting in the sweat and hard work to be the best that I can be. Clocking in the time, the effort to practice day in, day out. Curling is more than just a game. It's a family, a community. And when it's time to play, I know I'll be ready. Hardline, supporting hundreds of our next generation athletes.
And like bright. Looks like we have an extended fourth end break here. Teams warming up inside, perhaps even getting a little snack out of their cooler. We'll take this opportunity to recognize more of the sponsors that make curling possible.
Handcrafted in Canada, Hardline's Ice Pad has revolutionized curling for over a decade. Engineered with top-tier precision and durability, it is backed by an unmatched 10-year warranty. Designed for curlers at all levels to sweep effortlessly with maximum efficiency, it is trusted by the world's best curlers, including Olympic and world champions. It is quite simply the best brew in the game. Hardline. Join the revolution.
Welcome back to Championship Sunday at the Hack2House Alberta Curling Series Major, presented by Curling Stadium Beaumont. My name is Brian Gray, and I'm joined this morning by Rory McCusker, and we are live from Sheet 2 at the Beaumont Curling Club in Beaumont, Alberta. And this is one of two quarterfinal games going on this morning, and we have a really interesting matchup between Team Tabata of Japan and Team Sturmay of Edmonton, Alberta. Team Tabata picked up a surprising 2, I think, in the fourth end. So we believe now the score is 3 points to 2, Tabata leading, Team Sturmay with the hammer in this fifth.
Yeah, the body language from Team Sturmay as their rock didn't quite get shot stone behind the center guard. It indicated to me that it was a bigger mistake than you and I had thought.
Mm-hmm.
So that was our first hint that they actually were counting second shot at the back of the rings. And there's the hang. Yep, it is indeed.
Wow. Good that you're here, Rory. I wouldn't have believed that if I hadn't had the explanation. I didn't realize the camera was at the top of the 12 foot, you say. That certainly makes just a little bit of a difference to the optics.
Yes. Yeah, the hint is here. I'll show you on the overhead here. You can see the T line appears almost bent, like it's sort of U-shaped.
Mm-hmm.
That's just sort of one of the ways that the wide angle lens will manipulate the space that it's capturing.
So once again, Paige Papli with perfect come around in our first stone to set our team up in this fifth end. Very nicely done from her.
A bit of a mistake there. Coming a bit deep, but play is certainly drawn towards the middle, which is the overall objective of Team Tabata here in the fifth end.
As an alternative here, you could, of course, draw to one of the open sides. As Team Sturmay with hammer, you could just say, okay, I'm going to draw to the edge of the 12 foot and let you deal with the center first.
Yeah, that's a strategy that myself as a skip I've played with a few times in the men's game. It really relies on a few doubles and runbacks being made down the middle, and I just found more often than not that stone ends up being a waste. The play seems to come back to the center line.
Mm-hmm.
So you're putting a lot of onus on the middle of your lineup, your second and third, to make some big weight shots. So as long as you think you can make that happen, it's a fine tactic.
Well, I think especially if you're lying short, which they were at that point, it's more likely you do that. You wouldn't do that if you were lying short against. And there we see Page with a second almost perfect stone round the center guard. So this is going to be another interesting end developing here.
Yeah, last stone of the kind of free guard zone period.
This is second player Sei Yamamoto from the excuse me.
No, go ahead.
Looks to be a little bit on the short side. Nicely done.
Pretty darn good.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like we do have a score posted from the other quarterfinal game on the ice. Kate Cameron picks up 3 points in the fourth end.
So just to clarify a little bit the format, the 2A qualifiers go directly into the semis, and the 2B and the 2C qualifiers go into these two quarterfinals this morning. In case you're wondering why there's only 2 quarterfinal games.
The peeling has begun for Team Sturmay. Won't make anything move in the rings, just takes off the top, but they've got quite a few more attempts left before things get really scary. Team Sturmay with shot rock in the top of the ring, or the top of the button, so it will be Team Tabata that will eventually have to make something happen in the forefoot if they want to score. A good force brewing though, as things stand right now.
Mm-hmm. There is red onto yellow, but that doesn't give you second shot. So for later in the end, I mean, there's a tap on that front red on the right side as we look on the main graphic to remove that yellow that was just played one moment ago. But that wouldn't give you second shot. So for now, just rip the guard off. Looking for something else. Nope, just a pick. Nicely done.
Yeah, taking a closer look at this, I'm actually not entirely sure there's a good way to ram that guard into the rings. I mean, I guess if you go guard onto red in the top 8 foot, and ideally that rock would stick around, that might be optimal, but it's not a very obvious blow up benefit for Team Sturmay.
I agree, and of course there is a little bit of a nightmare shot. If you do mess with that red and get it wrong, you could actually remove the shot rock from the button, and then that would be a real tangle because the other team would be throwing and they'd be lying 2 in the forefoot. So definitely playing with fire if you try to run a guard onto that first red. But if any of these guards would undercurl and leave a tap on that red, yellow, would certainly be one option. There we see it there. But guards are tending not to undercurl in this late big finish here in Beaumont.
Comes a little deep. This might be the easiest chance Team Sturmay has to go yellow-red. Yellow, I suppose I should say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, coming that little bit deeper, you can hit the right side as a look on the main graphic.
Here, I'll show it once more.
There we go. So on the overhead, just hitting the yellow onto the left side as we look on the overhead. Removing that yellow rock from the forefoot. Would you say much closer this time, so it's certainly makeable. without risking the... Just going to overcurl a little bit on her. Oh, she got an
Oh,
edge. Look at that.
just barely. And will this roll into the rings? Oh, I'm not sure. I don't think so. That was the right way to... Yeah, it's a
Nice
good
result
result.
though, Rory. Yeah, nice result. A nice red-yellow freeze is really good now. It's not touching the... It's not going to go near the red on the button.
Team meeting. A little discussion here. Probably discussing if we are guarding, what exactly are we guarding? And I don't think there is a way to take away both these shots with now frozen angle. That's going to be accessible from either turn. That red rock at the top, unlikely to go much of anywhere.
What I will say is if that red on the right touching the 12-foot is actually in the circles, I'd be hesitating to move anything around. Because if it goes slightly wrong, you could easily set up a double or even a triple. Got to be real careful here as Team Tabata. They were looking at tapping at one stage. Now they've gone to what I think is a bit more safer option, just another center guard. But if you come into the rings here without hammer and start moving stuff around, there's 3 reds rocks to come.
This is a little off topic, but I'm really entertained by Selena sitting down at the end of the rink there. Does anything say qualify out of the sea? Then taking a little break Sunday morning. It's been a long Saturday for Team Sturmay. A lot of games that you have to win in a row, and yeah, just take a little 5 on the end boards.
I think she heard you. She's just stood up.
That was my mom would always tell us, "Oh, it looks like you're lazy. It looks like you're uninterested out there." Mom, I'm tired.
I was told exactly the same, Rory. What kind of impression are you giving the other team by sitting down at the end of the sheet? I don't care, Mom. I'm just exhausted.
Yeah.
I think this is still the intelligent call, not moving anything around in the rings and just guarding up, but it has overcurled a little bit on them, maybe.
Yeah, the out turn is the better turn to protect, I would say. So at
But
least
that
it's on
red
the...
now, excuse me, Rory, that red now, the little red tap, red yellow is certainly there, I would say. Red onto yellow, push the yellow back 8.
Well, one thing's for sure, the winner of this end will be decided by the very kind of precision that they're able to execute whatever tap or roll or hit. Either team has opportunity here to lock away the scoring area. It's just who's gonna make that specific weight and line work.
So Danielle being asked, I think just a back 8, back 12 weight, push the red at the top of the 8-foot onto that yellow and get the yellow back behind the pack. That looks to me what they're trying. She's just tightened the ice up a little bit, might be a little bit more than back 8. Crunch shot, I would say.
Yeah, it's this stone and the next 4 are going to be really crucial.
Looks to be like a hack coming now, though.
Paige Papley really getting this rock to move. Gets the top.
Perfect.
Yellow exits the relevant scoring area, and now it's a real dangerous situation for Team Tabata.
They've got a couple of options for the double on that red on the left. They can do red almost on the left of the center line to either of the other stones. They would, of course, prefer the stone in the button position. But are they looking at a freeze in there? Looks like it. The risk, of course, of playing any weight on the red on the left of the center line is there's always a small risk you remove your own back one. So team conference number 2 in this end.
And even if these teams were timed, they would have lots of time in the bank. This has been a good pace to this game on Sunday morning.
Mm-hmm. So option 1 is the front to back double red to the red on the button. Option 2 appears to be to come in to the red on the left of the center line as we look on the overhead. Some sort of freezing there, but I think that's really a dangerous call.
Yeah, that first option that you mentioned, there's a lot of good that can happen. There's 2 doubles that could be completed with that shot, and geez, you could even get lucky and get 3 red rocks moving. Perhaps not remove them, but get them moving.
There's 2 red doubles, and there's also a yellow double, which is, we always talk about tolerance, and if you were going for the one on the button, it's a pretty small tolerance between getting the perfect double with the top red to the one on the button, and then over curling a hair and getting your back 2 yellows. So they're not playing any sort of weight at this at all. Rory, looks like they're going for the freeze on that red stone, just touching the 4-foot.
Yeah, and if this was a rock or 2 earlier, I'd understand the call, but geez, they're running out of time here to get a yellow stone in the 4-foot.
Mm-hmm.
I guess they're aware that their stone in the back of the button, back of the 4-foot might be the only thing saving them. Trying to take away angles at removing that, but
that's the key here, is to take the angles away and not create an angle, because those 2 reds are lined up to the yellow at the back of the 4-foot circle.
Here comes some really aggressive curl.
Just going to rub. Oh. Not bad.
Yeah.
It's almost 2 though. It's not quite 2 yet, but they've kind of pushed that red up into a almost scoring position. But it's getting harder and harder to remove the yellow at the back.
Mm-hmm.
So they have taken the angles away, as we discussed. Before that shot was played, red was straight onto the yellow at the back of the button. So a pretty good result, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think the red angle would drag into the yellow stone, but not to save any of the reds. Both those reds go flying, and that's just not good enough. So quite an interesting scenario here.
And this is exactly what we're talking about with the 5-rock no-tick rule, that just, these kind of situations are just more common. And that's really what we want to see as spectators for the sport, just to develop. It's this kind of situation that's making people interested in the game. Because now everyone at home is discussing what they would do, and that's exactly what we want. That's the future generation of curlers and people coming into the game, fascinated by the snooker angles of these curling stones.
Absolutely. There's a Facebook page that I have to recommend. I don't know if he's still posting as much as he used to, but Daily Curling Puzzle, it's called.
Yep.
And it's really fun, and he comes up with some good ones. Even though you think you might know the strategy of the game very well, that page will stump you. Very, very fun.
That's Mr. Doug Wilson, I believe, who's a Canadian living in Scotland, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you're right. That sounds right.
And as always, there's no right or wrong. There's always more than one option that you can consider in most situations, and very much here too. It's I think I would like to see Selena tapping that top red at the 8-foot, just touching the 8-foot circle, pushing that in for a possible second shot.
Yeah, whatever's going to possibly give you an angle. And getting rid of that very valuable Tabata stone at the back of the 4-foot. even if it's a difficult shot, it's probably worth it. And something that they haven't been looking at, but is certainly available, is an in-off off that red stone on the side of the
Yeah.
12.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty thin, but very there. And it's a good kind of trade-off, because if you stick it, you get 3, but even if you just remove the yellow stone, you're still looking at 2.
Correct.
So it looks like a rearranging of angles once again. On the outturn side, that ice looks like it's a good hack weight they're about to throw. This is curling. Yes, whoa, yes, whoa. Tap,
Oh.
tap. Not quite. They needed to keep that a little higher.
Mm-hmm. So red line 1. Yellow at the back is just second position, I guess, from what you've told us already about the camera angles. And they're red line 3 and 4 after that, so still a bit of danger here for Team Tabata.
I'm just checking the chat here. We've got a lot of fans interested. A Japanese fan, YouTube name Mari Kashiwabara, has shared with us what seems to be some type of Japanese proverb. If it's a butternut squash, is the comment. Not sure what that.
You can explain that one to me later.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yes, what to do if it's a butternut squash. Yeah, well said.
Team conference number 3, Rory.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky one.
It's almost every rock now, as we predicted. The last 4 rocks of this end are going to be crucial to the outcome of the game, I think.
So I guess the starting point for discussions like this is, if we didn't throw, what would the opponent have?
And the answer to that would be possibly you're in off for 3, or the run on the top 8 shot for 3. Actually 4. If you can run the top 8 stone on the right side of the center line as we look on the overhead, just on a back weight, and chip the yellow out the 8 foot, you're going to get 4 points.
I think that's the most obvious shot, yeah. So if Tabata takes that away, there will be an outturn tap for 2, or the in-off for 3.
Mm-hmm.
However, they are looking at what I think is probably the right call, which is making a tap on their own yellow. It is accessible from, I would even say, either turn. You could get at that thing with just kind of back 8 kind of weight. If you're able to tap that into the top 4 foot top button area, even scoring 2 is going to become difficult.
I agree, and that tap on the yellow, probably a little bit easier on the open side. If you come on the same side as the red, just touching the top of the 8 foot, you do risk accidentally tapping that stone instead.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'd be in big trouble, because then there's probably angles for 4 or even more. So
yeah,
the last thing they want to do is be tapping the opponent's red up. That would be really not good. So I think they have to play the open side, which is what they're doing.
Yeah, it would almost make the angles easier for Team Sturmay to remove the yellow stone in the back of the 4 foot.
Mm-hmm. So, Momoha Tabata with her last stone in this rather interesting 5th end, looking to tap her own yellow, maybe 1 foot back. Needs to get contact with her own yellow here. Crunch time on rink 2, I would say. This
Sweepers
looks really nice.
Sweepers are calling the weight. They say it's a little heavy, but here's that big swing.
Great shot.
Magnificent.
Great shot.
Although,
it It's
It
there.
may have just left the door open. Is there an angle past that back red? Can you double off the yellows?
Yes, you can. You know what was most surprising about that stone? They didn't sweep to freeze it after the contact.
They kind of
Everyone just looked, and
yeah,
that difference between freezing the red and where the yellows actually stopped on the button means that your run for 4 is there. Red, yellow, yellow.
yeah,
It is
looking
there.
back on it, maybe a couple licks of sweep just to keep
Yeah.
that angle high would have went a long way for Team
Mhm.
Tabata to make that shot perfect.
2 licks before or after contact, and this shot wouldn't have been possible.
See, as the vice skip in the rings, that's why it's so important to stay vocal, even if there's no decision to be made. Like, keep reminding, tap your broom, remind
Yeah.
your sweepers where that rock needs to be, and you got to fight that temptation to just become an audience and watch the stone down the rink. It's never over till it's over.
Well, that's great that you say that. I always say as a coach, never turn your back on a moving rock. And the tendency, people do tend to stop at the top of the 12 foot and just watch what's happening. And I always encouraging my players to come down, even though you're pretty sure you won't need to sweep. Just be ready, because as we've discussed, 2 licks on that yellow, it would have been touching that red, and then this shot wouldn't have been possible. And we're talking about potentially a 5-shot swing here. So as always in curling, it's all about the millimeters.
Not a lot of risk to this shot either. I don't. There's nothing you can do that's gonna give up more than one, and you're very likely to at least get that single yellow out of the ring. So
Yeah.
no,
you can't
no
make it
risk
any
really.
worse. So Selena Sturmay, last stone in this 5th, with a potential raised double for 4. Looks very good. Oh, wow. Just undercurled a hair and just missed the double takeout. Does pick up 1 point to level things up at 3-3. So we're all tied. 6th end coming up in just one moment.
Imagine being able to stream every curling game from every sheet from any event, be it your Wednesday league game, bonspiel, or corporate event. Curling Stadium offers an all-inclusive streaming solution featuring high-quality cameras, ease of use, great reliability, and minimal installation. Offering your sponsors customizable ad space on your streamed curling games and being able to sell video packages to your corporate events for increased revenue. With Curling Stadium, you can stream to any device, be it your mobile phone, tablet, or computer. Push the feed to your desired platform, be it Facebook, YouTube, or any other social media. Curling Stadium is simply the way forward. Where it's commonplace in other sports to televise every game, we want to do the same. Curling is a global sport, and it's time it gets the coverage it needs. Make your curling club the next Curling Stadium.
Welcome back to the Hack2House Alberta Curling Series Major, presented by Curling Stadium Beaumont. And we are in the middle of a thrilling game. We're in the 6th end now. It's tied at 3-3. And exciting game there, exciting end there in the 5th, Rory. Anything could have happened at the end.
Yeah, that was I'm still reeling from that last end. There's a lot going on and a lot of really interesting discussion and strategical or tactical decisions. A game-saving shot from Tabata at the end.
That's been a signature of her play. She does tend to come up with the big ones when she needs them. And she certainly kept her team in the game there, especially on that strong finish at the end of that shot there. She made a perfect little tap on the yellow, pushed in for shot position, and saved the day, I think, for her team, we could say. And now with 2 guards in play, we could be heading for something similar in this 6th.
That's a really light attempt from Tabata's lead. Not a helpful stone for the team throwing yellow rocks.
Yep, just adding to the count of center guards, really. It's not a perfect center guard, but it's covering the 4-foot circle, so not ideal from the Japanese lead. As we see Paige Papley with her second, coming nicely into the 12-foot circle here, just over curling a hair. Mikoto Nakajima lead on this Japanese team. Looking to come all the way around everything and get to the top of the button, I would think.
She's pointing quite emphatically as she follows her own stone down the sheet.
And look at that finish. It passed the first guard by a full yard.
Seems to be apologizing. I think maybe she was trying to encourage a plan B kind of sweep call from her skip.
Mm-hmm.
Not a strong 6th end.
Would like to have been in front of the tee line, of course, but with hammer, it's not a disaster. It's one, at least it's a counter in the rings.
Yeah, much more tolerance for those types of shots when you do have hammer. You can tick the guard well, as long as it's not on the center line, you can tick the guard. You can come a little deep, it's okay. The team without hammer, though, there's really only one good place to put it, and that's in the top 4, top 8 foot.
Correct.
This has got a long way to come.
This is more than a yard, I would say, this time. A little bit longer, I think.
It still almost finds a way to get back, but just too heavy. And a little bit of sloppiness after that that extended 5th end. Mm-hmm. We had a pretty good pace for this game up until then, and now things slowed down a little bit in the 5th. Sweepers were focused on their job of sweeping, and now they got to get in the hack and throw rocks, and it seems like it's a little bit sloppy to start this 6th.
This is the 6th end, of course. Team Sturmay could really push for a steal here. Whoever scores the 6th end has certainly some sort of an advantage with 2 ends to play. Sei Yamamoto, second player on this Japanese team.
Fighting hard to keep this straight.
Looks to be very close to the top 12 shot. Just rubbed off there.
Yeah, must have rubbed the top guard.
Mm.
And a lucky,
wow.
A lucky result. Be in pretty good position.
Rub the guard and still be fully hidden on the top of the 4-foot is always a good result.
Yeah, if I would have walked away from the computer for a while and came back, I would have just assumed they placed that there. Just want to once again say hello to our 236 concurrent viewers on YouTube. That's not including Facebook or any kind of mirroring sites where people are watching from. Welcome, and thank you so much for supporting Curling Stadium in our quest to bring tour level curling to the masses. We appreciate your support. If you could like, share, comment on these videos, it's not just because we want the attention. That really does help the algorithm and the YouTube metrics and how we're able to approach advertisers and sponsors and bring light to those businesses that support curling. So it's all a big circle that you're helping be a part of, and we appreciate you tuning in and participating in these broadcasts.
And with that, we see a perfect stroke from Desiree Hose there, just pushing the yellow back and really setting up this end now for Team Sturmay to have a chance of a steal in this critical sixth end. Timeout called. I think when you look at the scoreboard here, Rory, and you see it's the sixth end, I think number one that must not happen from Team Tabata's perspective is that the opponent must not steal. If you allow the opponent to steal in the sixth end, then you're basically giving them two hammers, if you like, scoring in the sixth and then maybe scoring in the eighth. So tendency here would be a bit of a clearance job. Try and remove two or even all three reds here. Open up that center. You've got two yellows at the back of the rings, which are possible counters, and plenty of opportunities to score two that way. But if they continue on an aggressive vein and keep drawing into that 4-foot circle, they do risk the chance that Team Sturmay will somehow find a way to possibly freeze on that yellow stone on the button. And I think from their perspective, Team Tabata, a steal at this point would be a big setback to their semi-final hopes.
Oh, absolutely. Another really fun curling page to check out is the analytics tab on curlingzone.com. It's just one of those along the top of the website. There's a bunch of tabs, home, ranking, events, team scores, fantasy, all that stuff. If you click analytics and then you select your year start and end dates, you select men, women, or doubles, it'll show you the exact winning percentages for every recorded tour game at that specified time. And what we learned from that page is that the sixth end is so vitally important in an 8-end game. Whoever scores in the sixth end it doesn't even matter what the score is on the scoreboard. Whoever puts a point on the board in the sixth end greatly increases their chance of winning the game. So that has to factor into Tabata's decision here. Yes, it's good to score multiple, but you really have to make decisions that are going to ensure that you are the team scoring a point.
And for a 10-end game, presumably that same statistic would apply for the 8th end.
Exactly, yes. Ends remaining, I suppose, is a better way of looking at it.
No, that's a really interesting statistic, and there's always a lot of discussion about, the second last end. Do we want to be going into the last end one up without or one down with? But statistic on the sixth end is pretty clear, I think. If you score, as you say, good chance of winning the game. Even if it's only 1 point.
Yes.
And I think that's the message we're trying to get here is clean this up, simplify things a little bit, and just make sure that you scored. Keep the hammer potentially in the 8th end. So a bit of a pistol here, looking to clear up a couple of guards. Fortunately, just rolled in front of the stone at the top of the 12-foot. Really needed to find a way to play that double and somehow roll away. But it's progress, for sure.
Yeah, the rock is now yellow, but it's just not good enough. It's still in that controlling area for Team Sturmay, and even if you were to bash that thing back, you still have a bunch of reds in your way. But the good news is you are shot rock if you're Team Tabata and side of the button, but that might change with this shot right here. Very important shot. You can see the sweepers discussing the path and what they think the weight's going to be like.
Shot position would be ideal on the button, but one of those where top 4 would be pretty useful too. There's still 3 rocks to come after this. Don't want to be long here.
Yeah, that's the only real miss is missing deep.
Correct. So top 4 fully hidden would be really nice. Or just showing maybe half a rock would be really nice.
A good sweep gets it by.
Oh,
What a result that is.
beautiful.
I think, oh, did they get shot rocket? To me, it looks still yellow, but it's tough to tell. Either way, that stone is going nowhere quick.
Yep.
Really like how the Sturmay team took an extra 10 or 15 seconds to really discuss that path, exactly what they had to do. The sweepers shared their information, and everyone came together to make that a really nice shot.
So the demolition continues from Team Tabata. They're pretty close this time to something on that red. Wow.
I mean, a touch unlucky. You know what? I think that's as far as what the shot they called. I think they accomplished what they were trying to do. Still looking pretty ugly though.
It's looking, I mean, they've given shot away. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
And we've just explained how so important it is that whoever scores the 6th end is going to be in great shape. So they've given shot away, and even worse than that, they've left a second center guard. So now it's definitely advantage Team Sturmay here to steal one in this 6th.
So I guess what was the objective of that call? I suppose.
I presume the first objective was to double the yellows. I mean, if something was touched in the rings as well, I think that was going to be a bonus. But the way it's finished with two center guards is
yeah,
a little bit of a minor disaster, I would say.
Just the way they were sweeping it, it seemed like they were intending to bash things forward. But I'm with you. The overlapped center guards, it's just too late in the end to have that.
And if Team Sturmay can line this freeze up onto the back 4-foot yellow, then it's getting really hard to remove any red. They're just a little bit shorter than they perhaps would have wanted. It would have been superb to freeze that red. So a little bit of a lifeline. There's still a double on those yellows, yellow, yellow, and then onto the reds in the rings. Could remove everything. But if they'd somehow managed to freeze that red facing the yellow at the back of the 4-foot circle, hard to see how they wouldn't steal one in this end.
Well, just these last two ends, the 5th and the 6th, you can feel the intensity ratcheting up and up and up. So much on the line, and big ends brewing for either team. Team Tabata trying to fight off yet another big end. Team Sturmay. They will make contact.
Nice result.
Yeah, it's a great improvement, and well executed shot from third rock thrower.
And there you see if the 2 reds have been frozen against that, or in line with the yellow at the back, there'd be 2 reds in the rings. Now there's only 1, and it's wide open, which is a big bonus. And let's not forget, there's 3 yellows in the circles now. So the game's swinging backwards and forwards here. Team Tabata with the hammer, lying 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. So not the moment for a miss from Team Sturmay here. This one needs to be perfect, and that's an option. Freeze the back and reduce the risk a little bit.
hear the sweep calls from the adjacent sheet, where Team Yoshimura did respond in the 5th end with a deuce of their own. It's now 5-4. Kate Cameron leads with hammer in the 6th.
Selena Sturmay, first stone in this 6th end, looking to freeze back 4. It's a dangerous situation, Rory, if because that red on the other side there can be run onto that red, for example. There is a double there. Interesting, Team Tabata thinking first about hitting and rolling underneath the center guards and getting 2 that way. But they could also choose to hit the left side of the red as we look on the overhead and pick the 2 reds out. Might be a little bit of a catcher at the back depending on the angles, but and now electing to go for top of the button. So the full spectrum of defensive or aggressive here. They're going to go top of the button and try and get 2 points that way. And that red on the right side as we look on the main graphic, that can be used by Team Sturmay to wick off that red or use that red to get some sort of force towards the button. So Team Tabata will need to be really careful where they leave this rock, or they could be facing a very unpleasant situation with their last.
Yeah, and I understand the thinking. Well, if we're going to score 2 in the 4-foot, we may as well just place our rock there. No need to hit and roll. It's not like that Sturmay stone is particularly dangerous. You need a good sweep.
But that's what I mean. Now, you see, isn't there a double using your own red there?
I'm not sure. Yeah. If
you know, just a hack way. It doesn't need to be a bullet. It could just be hack. Just try and catch a third of your own rock. And then, as I say, you're looking at a really nasty last stone because the shooter here will finish top of the button. That's why I didn't like that stone so much.
Okay, yeah, I see what you mean. And it's kind of a principle that you can apply, you know, in any end, at any position. If there's one sort of in-off angle, you as the team who uses it, you take it away for the other team. It's no longer
Correct.
there for the opponent. So that's one of the temptations into making it work like that.
It was the first thing she indicated, actually, Skip Tabata. She indicated to remove the red and flop onto the button. And looking at that setup, I think that would have been a good bit better than this. But Selena will need to play a down weight to get the curl, I think. She can't hit much more than about a third of this red rock. If she hits half, she's not really going to get an ideal angle, and she'll roll away if she hits half. If she hits a third, she will stop touching the top half of the button behind guards. So Team Sturmay having a long look at this, and rightly so. Could come down and freeze the yellow. But as we said, if you could ever steal this 6th end, The odds are in your favor that you win the game. One of those rare situations where giving one is maybe not the first priority from here, I would say. Could come down, catch about a third of her own red rock, flop over and remove the yellow from the forefoot.
Yeah, that would make it quite
Give herself
difficult
a
to score.
really difficult shot with her last. That's what she's doing. The question for me will be the weight selection. I don't know what the best weight to play at this is, because if you're going to throw fast, you really need to hit a third. And if you hit more than a third, you're going to spin out across the top, and then Tabata's last stone will be much easier. Selena Sturmay with her last stone of the sixth end, looking to come in off her own shooter, remove the stone on the button, and lie 2 points behind guards.
This looks pretty good if they can hold it straight. Oh, exactly right.
Perfect.
So I just noticed that was the exact right way that you needed to throw that shot to keep it straight. Lots of rotation, a good snap of the wrist, kept that rock just beaming down one specific vertical line on the ice. Just a really well executed throw by Selena.
Didn't expect this setup from this end, Rory. Now Team Tabata's got slightly tough shot just to get her 1 point. I'm wondering if she can come onto the back and still get shot. If she comes onto the red at the back of the, just behind the button.
The way these rocks are curling, I wouldn't be surprised.
Momoha Tabata with her last stone in the sixth. Last stone of the sixth end. Draw to the button for 1 point.
Waiting for this to curl. And there's that snap.
They seem to be pretty happy.
And just like you said, the curl at the end, they did come to the back one, not even half a stone, and it was enough.
Yeah. So, never in doubt from Team Tabata, scoring one in the sixth. They go into a 4-3 lead. Seventh end coming up in just one moment.
I don't remember a time when curling wasn't a part of my life. When I wasn't putting in the sweat and hard work to be the best that I can be. Clocking in the time, the effort to practice day in, day out. Curling is more than just a game. It's a family, a community. And when it's time to play, I know I'll be ready. Hardline, supporting hundreds of our next generation athletes.
Calling all curlers, novice to pro. Ashland Curling Supply's patented rotator disc system lets you customize your slider right in the store. Velcro attachments make it easy to find the sliding platform that's right for you. Shop Ashland Curling Supplies, 700 McPhillips, online at ashland.com.
Welcome back to the Hack2House Alberta Curling Series Major, presented by Curling Stadium Beaumont. My name is Brian Gray, and I'm joined this morning by Rory McCusker. And we are having a thrilling game here, Rory, in the 7th end. Sturmay trailing by a point with the hammer. We've had a couple of cracking ends. Anything could happen in these last 2 ends now.
Yeah, it has been incredible that ever since the 4th end break, just the intensity ratcheting up and up and up. Seemed like 2 ends in a row there, the 5th and the 6th. Team Tabata was really on their heels, but with some nice shots by the skip, a end saving shot in the 5th, and another, end saving shot in the 7th has been the difference. Not that Selena Sturmay is getting necessarily outplayed, it's just the right shot at the right time for Team Tabata.
And Team Tabata's troubles on that end started actually with the lead stone being a little bit short, and it was almost like a second center guard, and the whole end seemed to follow from that. So just a reminder how important those lead stones are.
Paige Papley, lead for Team Sturmay, has had a very strong game, but does throw her first rock through the rings. Unintentional. Little miss there. This will be an important stone. Gain positioning. And gotta say, this looks heavy as well. To the back of the rings that goes, and will it go through again? My goodness.
Looks like it's just hanging on there.
Still a rather surprising off end, Paige Papley. We had been singing her praises earlier.
She's been a rock all weekend from what I've seen. That's the first time she hasn't come up with the goods. Might still be hanging on the back there, but certainly not where she wanted to be at all. Sei Yamamoto, second player on this Japanese team. Looking to freeze the yellow counter at the top of the forefoot.
Just a little update from the other quarterfinal game on the ice. It is Kate Cameron with a single point in the 6th end. She'll carry a 2-point lead into the 7th over Sayaka Yoshimura. Both these teams from Sapporo, Japan, the northernmost island. Or perhaps not the northernmost island, but one of the northern islands of Japan. We always consider, or not always, but it's tempting to consider, just a Japanese team and leave it at that. But they are quite regional, especially the Korean teams as well. Very competitive in their regional playdowns. So just like in Canada, the U.S., and Europe, Edinburgh, Glasgow, all these places, the region the team is from is very important to them. They're representing their hometown, home state, or province.
While you were talking there, Rory, Desiree with a beautiful double takeout to clean things up a little bit. This one also a little bit on the long side.
Wow, this half in the ice must be tricking the teams a little bit. It isn't, it is fairly common for one side of the sheet to be a little quicker than the other. Oftentimes, coming home, as they would say, is a little quicker, but I have certainly played it at curling clubs where going away seems to be a little quicker. And do we have another one from Desiree? Just misses barely, but gets the guard off the center line. Still a helpful shot. Although that next time they run that guard, it's going to be yellow instead of red.
Of course, an option here for Team Sturmay would be the blank, but with those two hanging around at the back of the 12 foot, that might be not so easy to achieve. Blank end and take the hammer into the 8th end. Trailing by a point wouldn't be a bad situation.
A nice little overlap. Those center guards. Does expose that top 12 stone just enough that Selena is going to be tempted into hitting it, rolling and getting shot rock along the wing.
Mm-hmm. If she tries the double here, she might be thinking in the back of her mind about a blank. If she removes this yellow and rolls to the side, then you can be sure that she's not. And there you go. So a down weight, remove the yellow, roll to the edge of the 8 foot perhaps. Danielle Schmiemann, third player on the Sturmay team. I'm going to get a nice roll away from the center, shot position. Perfectly done. Miku Nahira, third player on this Sapporo team. Trying to remove this red counter and possibly roll back behind the center guard, but she's rolled too far, so now it's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, what will Sturmay choose? That biter in the back 12 all of a sudden becoming somewhat relevant. We don't know if it's in the 12 foot or not.
Top four is the call.
Another good discussion with her sweepers, managing the path, understanding what this is going to do. It is a very critical time in the game.
Over curling, I think. It's going to come out the other side, needs to stop.
You don't want to give backing. That really did grind to a halt.
Mm-hmm. Nice shot.
Yeah, ends up in a good spot. And wow, it is Team Tabata up 1 point. Who will play ball here? Gotta think they're okay with not getting shot rock. Yeah, right where the broom is tapped, a little corner freeze.
Mm-hmm. So Skip Tabata with her first stone in the 7th end. Out turn, come around, try and glue onto that red in the 4-foot circle. And there's that swoop. Just coming over nicely. Beautifully played.
Right where they tap the broom. She has been red hot. I would say the best player on the ice.
I agree. Couldn't carry that stone down and place it any better. Leaves the option with her last to possibly tap yellow onto red, or depending where this stone stops, from Selena, looking to play back of the 4-foot circle, but got to be careful that she doesn't stop there somewhere and leaving a freeze.
Mm-hmm.
So aggressive curling from Team Tabata, but paying off at this point. How does Team Sturmay manufacture 2 from here without leaving a freeze to kill the end?
Yeah, it's quite interesting. Could you tap your own on the intern side just a little bit, maybe a foot or a half foot?
Mm-hmm.
Challenge Team Tabata to make a tap, and then there might be a sort of 45-degree angle you could slam your previous stone onto the Tabata stone and maybe stick it. I shouldn't say slam, but have an angle that way.
Right. If you do touch your own, you are leaving the straight tap for Team Tabata. I think it's there, even though it looks extremely hard from the far end of the sheet. I think there's enough curl there to get to nose. Tap it 1 foot. That's the only downside of removing that red or moving that red somewhere else. But you could certainly tap your red and then roll away, perhaps roll to the 3 o'clock position on the 4-foot circle. Of course, you can draw to exactly there where the broom is being shown on the other side of the 4-foot circle, behind that yellow. That would leave Tabata with a run yellow yellow to remove both reds.
Little coach time here. I know Ted Appleman was working with this team at the Scotties, the Alberta Scotties last year. I don't think that's him though. Well, Oh, never mind. That is Ted.
Ah.
I heard just a few words. I heard slash double. So that they don't want to leave Tabata a chance to remove both this shot and the one that's already in the forefoot. So
Exactly, and that's the problem, Rory. If you sit pretty much just behind that yellow, same height as the other red, then you're just asking Tabata to play yellow, yellow, and remove both reds. So I think if you do go around here, you need to try and not be level with the other red. Maybe be slightly deeper. So that if Tabata would play yellow on yellow, yellow guard on yellow shot, then the double would be much harder. So by all means go behind this yellow, but don't leave the reds level. Get one a little bit deeper than the other.
it's all about keeping this pressure on Team Tabata, which Team Sturmay has managed to do the last 3 ends. Hoping that the skip will crack at a certain point. Big sweep the whole way down. Line looks really good.
Line is perfect.
They settle in just behind the tee line. It's a bit of a mistake, but still a challenging shot for Team Tabata. And, you know, once again, will we see an end saver from the skip?
But as you say, end after end, keeping the pressure on like that. Everybody's human. This is certainly a good bit tougher than the previous shot that she made to backing for her 1 point a couple of ends back. And if she does make it, Sturmay's got the little tap on her own red at the front. So, Momoha Tabata, her last stone in the 7th. Possibly trying to freeze the red at the back of the button. Looks to be a little bit wide, maybe a little bit long.
And that is going to be the miss that Team Sturmay was waiting for. And it's a big one.
I
Unable
agree.
to stay for team. Very, very difficult window to ask the skip to put that in without over curling, settling right on the button like that. That was a tough ask.
Yeah, if you graze the front yellow, you lose 3. If you basically sit 3/4 in front of that red, then they have a fairly simple tap for at least 2. So it was a really tough position they left. Even though she went behind the tee line, it was actually a lot harder than I first thought. And now, Sturmay with a really great chance to pick up a 3 in this game. Selena Sturmay, last stone in the 7th. Button
Draw
draw
weight
for
has
3.
Draw weight has been a bit of an issue this weekend. I hope she uses her sweepers this time. She has a tendency to miss heavy, and you can see Paige signaling that this is up.
And we can see from the line that it's getting better. It's a little bit on the long side, but it should finish. Here it comes, and it's perfect. Beautiful
Really nice throw.
shot. And Team Sturmay, for the first time in this game, racing ahead 2 points, 6 points to 4 after 7. Team Tabata with the hammer in the 8th end, coming right up just after this.
Handcrafted in Canada, Hardlines Ice Pad has revolutionized curling for over a decade. Engineered with top-tier precision and durability, it is backed by an unmatched 10-year warranty. Designed for curlers at all levels to sweep effortlessly with maximum efficiency, it is trusted by the world's best curlers, including Olympic and world champions. It is quite simply the best broom in the game. Hardline. Join the revolution.
Gripper first.
Don't forget your brooms.
Yep, we got it. Yellow.
Come on. Okay, well, what do you got? You got one, you got two, you got...
Just one more throw, please.
You make moments like these possible.
Calling all curlers, novice to pro. Ashland Curling Supply's patented rotator disc system lets you customize your slider right in the store. Velcro attachments make it easy to find the sliding platform that's right for you. Shop Ashland Curling Supplies, 700 McPhillips, online at ashland.com.
Wrong guy. Ed?
Hans Frauenlob.
So welcome back to the Hack2House Alberta Curling Series Major, presented by Curling Stadium Beaumont. And we're in the 8th end. Team Sturmay picks up 3 in the 7th to go ahead by 6 points to 4. Team Tabata with the hammer in this 8th end. Great game of curling, Rory.
Oh, it's been fantastic. We've watched a good progression. Things starting off kind of open in the first 2 or 3 ends, and just progressively getting more and more aggressive, messier and messier, more interesting scenarios, and we've had a lot of analysis and armchair skipping to do. So it's been a really fun one.
And some real nice clutch shots being played. And then for the first time in a while, we saw Tabata just come up a little bit long on her last draw, and that gave an opening for Selena Sturmay to pick up 3, which she did. So for the first time in a while, Tabata is trailing anyone in this competition. So Paige Paplay's first guard just coming off the center line, so they've chosen to go around that. Nicely done.
Yeah, those stones are lined up. Not directly on the center line, but still pretty good positioning.
So Nakajima looking to come around her own corner guard here.
That's the signaling to the skip and the trailing of the rock is just something else. Really fun.
She's saying she's long, but she's not that long. Maybe a little bit, but very nice result. And just sticking on the outside edge, as we talked about earlier. So pretty good result there.
Yeah, I'm calling this 4 made shots by the front end, unless Paige's first one was supposed to be in the rings. But it's your pretty normal beginning to an end. Center draw around, corner draw around.
So this is the fifth stone off this end, and of course can't remove anything quite yet. So looking to play perhaps top 12. Wouldn't expect a second center guard here. Leading by 2, but that's what they're playing.
Yeah. It's not shocking. I've seen this more and more of teams sort of playing a more kind of normal tie game scenario, even though they're 2 up.
Mm-hmm.
Just understanding that you can't peel until the next stone anyway, so may as well just do what you know to do, which is clog up the center, get your rocks in good positions in the front of the rings. some teams experimenting with the idea of sort of corner guard tick, the little bunt shot where they'll remove the corner guard from. It seems to trend sort of up and down, team to team type decision.
Ticket and roll into the rings.
Well, that'd be ideal, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm. Not sure I like that red guard too much, to be honest with you. It looks like they're removing the. Looks like they're going to try and remove the middle red guard. So a little bit of an error, I would say. And if Team Tabata can pick this middle red stone, possibly roll into the rings. Then the red guard that remains will function as a corner guard, and there we go. It looks really nice.
Yeah.
Is it going to hang around? It is. Look at that. That's a beautiful stone.
That's marvelous the way it rolled. That's a better position than they could have even drawn to. So a true 2-for-1 shot.
Mm-hmm. And now the red guard that was thrown is effectively a corner guard, Rory, I would say. Although it's covering a little bit of the 4-foot circle, it's probably helping Tabata more than it's helping Sturmay right now.
Yeah, I mean, with a good amount of weight, a nose hit on this corner guard will remove all 3 yellows. But it looks like they're going for a straight peel and roll. Peel with a tolerance for a roll.
Mm-hmm.
Don't want to chip
It's
your
a
own
long
out of the
one here,
rings.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Accomplishes a straight peel, but now that we're looking at this situation, I totally agree with your assessment before. This is a really good looking scenario for Team Tabata.
Now this is interesting. She's not trying to remove the red in the 4-foot circle.
Yeah.
That really surprises me.
Well, the reason the math doesn't quite make sense on this one is you can't just continually replace this corner guard. You do have to chase down the middle at a certain point. I mean,
Yeah.
you just won't score unless you do. So
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how long they plan on kind of doing this peel replace dance, Team Tabata. I think the longer it goes on, it advantages Sturmay more than it does Tabata.
Yeah. I mean, of course, they do need 3. 2's not enough, so that's one reason to cover this double, but interesting
Well,
choice.
I mean, the terminology there, not that I disagree with you, but you know, you need 2. You're going for 3, but you need 2 to continue the game.
Right.
It's you know, the percentages of winning an extra end without hammer get higher and higher every
Mm-hmm.
year.
I agree.
Not that many teams would play specifically for that. You want to keep the 3 in the conversation.
But instead of throwing the corner guard, if you remove the red, then you're well on your way to 2, I believe. Even if they make the double, you're still looking really good for 2.
So I think this is a run back call this time. They've come
Mm-hmm.
close enough to the rings where 3 yellows moving is the objective. Needs to curl up a hair.
It's getting closer.
It's 1. Not an awesome scenario, or sorry, not an awesome result. You definitely left an obstacle on that corner guard side and left a single rock on the wing.
Mm-hmm. And now, because it's only 1 yellow, it looks like they're going to attack this red now in the 4-foot circle. As long as it was 2 yellows on the side, they were kind of happy to guard up, but now they're thinking, okay, we've got our second counter over there, we'll just remove this red.
And yeah, fair enough. That does make sense.
They're going to go around again. They're going to go perhaps freeze the yellow or somehow get behind the red guard.
So is this a draw into the rings?
I believe it's like a freeze, maybe a half freeze on the yellow, like show half. Might be just a guard, but that would surprise me.
Well, sweepers don't want anything to do with this one.
It's
Got
looking
a lot of
better and
curling to
better.
do.
But don't want
I
to
bet
leave the
that-
double this way.
I bet that was a guard. At this point, you may as well sweep it for a biter.
Yeah. I think they did call a guard, or maybe because the line was so wide, they didn't want to bring it in the rings.
You know, the
Maybe it
body
was a little-
language would indicate a guard, right? Like they were
Yeah.
off it right away.
Mm-hmm. So with just 3 rocks to go, Selena could call their bluff here and just guard up. Play top 12 behind, half behind that center guard and effectively try and steal, but looking at possibly a double on these yellows.
Yeah, well, just with the distance that those yellow rocks are, I like this call. If that guard was any higher, I don't know if it would be worth it to take on the run, but
Mm-hmm.
the angles are right, and your shooter's going to roll to a potentially very good spot. So,
And looking at the overhead there, let's not forget there's a biter at the 3 o'clock position on the 12 foot. It's not biting, but it's certainly getting in the way of if you were happen to raise this yellow back. That biter at the, you see it at the very left of the big graphic, could also catch something. Need to be careful here.
she's on the wrong side of this right now.
Yep.
Gets one, does not get two, leaves an overlapped corner guard scenario. Not ideal at all.
That's not good. Yep.
So
So
with
they could
no
go in the
access,
freeze. Yeah. Sorry.
with no access to that Yellowstone, it's going to be very tempting to once again draw around that corner scenario. You might even force Sturmay into doubling down and attempting to protect their red rock in the 4-foot. That could be your key to scoring 3. But now Tabata has decided to turn their attention to the center stone. Not surprised, but it seems to be a little bit of a changing gears.
It's difficult, isn't it? You could play the perfect draw around those 2 reds, frozen on the other yellow to set up your 3. But then if Selena plays 2 perfect rocks, you might not get anything. So I think this is probably the correct call. I think you have to attack this. Even though they've kind of given you a chance for 3 at the side there, I think you need to attack the red in the 4-foot circle now, or you might run out of rocks. So Miku Nahira with her second stone in this last or 8th hand. Perfectly done. I don't know if there's a double there.
Well, let's take a look.
There we are. Ah.
Pretty flat. I don't think it's there.
Need to be a bullet. Oh,
They're
they're
gonna go
going.
for it.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
there
why
again,
not?
that stone at the edge of the 12 foot, I mean, that could easily be catching a yellow here.
Even just a nice flat roll to get your rock side to side with that yellow is gonna go a long way.
Hmm.
It's a big
Possibly what
shot
they're
here.
actually, it's possibly what they're actually calling here. I think the double's a bit too flat as well.
Hitting this too thin and rolling out would be not a good result. So gotta
That would.
get something out of this red stone.
Hmm. So Selena Sturmay, first of her 2 stones in this 8th end.
Gotta come up. Gets half a rock, pushes it, and the jam that you've been talking about all end long, Brian, comes into play.
And it's second shot. So the 3 is
Yes,
still
it
on
is.
here.
Oh, the 3 is very on.
Interesting. She's looking to roll to the button.
Yeah, is she forgetting how much it curls? I think it's more than there. You very easily could get a roll to the wing here.
Yeah.
It would leave a freeze, like a corner freeze opportunity for Sturmay to completely take the game away. I just think it's a little odd that they would be playing so aggressively all in to try and keep 3 in play, and then it seems like in these last few stones they've sort of conceded that they're happy with 2.
Well, as we all know, you should always really be happy with 2. I mean, 3 presents itself and you might play an excellent end, but at the end of the day, better scoring 2 than almost 3. It's one of those things. It's disciplined curling. It's like, hey, we got to be happy with 2 points here. Hit this roll away, and we get our 2. Doesn't want to nose it though.
Ooh,
Tricky double, I would say.
tricky double, but does a hit and roll do the trick?
Oh yeah, you can kill the game here.
That is a big opening left for Team Sturmay. Tabata, the skip, best player on the ice for most of this game, and then now just in the last 2 shots we've seen, basically the first 2 mistakes of her game.
Yeah.
Have come back to back here.
You can get checkmate here if you can lie fully hidden behind those 2 red guards in short position. It's going to be really tough.
Just got to bury half a stone here, or more, and that should effectively put the game away. It'll leave a very, very difficult shot for Team Tabata.
So Selena Sturmay with her last stone in this 8th end, looking to remove this yellow counter. Roll perhaps half or 3/4 hidden behind these 2 guards.
This is not moving very much at all.
Sounds good though.
On and off, on and off.
And that's exactly what we're talking about.
Did it roll enough though? Is there a backline tap?
Yes is the answer. It's got to be there, I think. Doesn't look like it from the far end, but on the overview, no question. If you can get the perfect weight, you don't need nose, but you need pretty close to nose.
See, I was surprised, but they were sweeping that right into the end. Just a little mismanaged. I think they were thinking they had to be a perfect half stone buried, when really you could have buried that whole thing and been just as effective. But either way, this is a very difficult shot.
It is. I think the key was just not to roll out. Maybe that's what they were concerned about. But anyway, it's Skip Tabata with the last stone in this 8th with a tricky little backline tap to score 2 points to push us into an extra end.
Kind of flips that rock back to the center line. Need a lot of movement to make it happen here, and it will not be enough. Well, there you have it, Brian.
What a great game of curling, though. A little bit sad to end on a miss like that, because otherwise we've seen some terrific curling from both teams, Rory. Pleasure to watch this game with you, and I have to say congrats to Team Sturmay. They've picked themselves up from yesterday's loss and come back to beat this team, so kudos to them.
Hey, run the sea. Doesn't matter how you get there. They're now in the finals. So thanks so much, folks, for tuning in and watching this game with us. We've got more Championship Sunday curling coming up on Curling Stadium. Brian, thank you so much for joining me. It was a pleasure.
My pleasure.
I don't remember a time when curling wasn't a part of my life. When I wasn't putting in the sweat and hard work to be the best that I can be. Clocking in the time, the effort to practice day in, day out. Curling is more than just a game. It's a family, a community. And when it's time to play, I know I'll be ready. Hardline, supporting hundreds of our next generation athletes.